right, guys. Happy Friday. Welcome to April 3rd. Today's kind of D-Day for the PPP loan, but I think there's some last-minute developments on that. So today we've got one special guest on the call, John Batdorf, part of the CS Success team at Push Press. But he's on the call because he's also going through a lot of the same steps actively as a lot of you guys who are trying to navigate, what loans to get, where you can send your applications to, what the timeline is, all that good stuff. Good stuff. That was totally not on purpose. No pun intended. Well, cool, guys. So how's everyone today?
Good.
We're holding up. We made it to Friday.
Doing pretty well. Yeah, it's Friday.
This week went by a lot faster than the last week, so I'll tell you that much.
Slightly.
Yeah. No?
I think
For
maybe
me.
John might have a different perspective on that. I think every morning it's been like John's sending in a message that he's like setting up all his paperwork, going to the banks, checking on statuses and stuff like that.
And then it all changes.
Yeah. So what's up with that? Are people able to apply today? Is that the latest?
Supposed to be able to. So according to my banker, I got an email this morning that said they had new developments from guidelines from the SBA and a new app. Here's the app. And that was it. So I'm reading other people in the affiliate owners groups and stuff. Their banks are telling them otherwise. They're telling them they're not going to be ready today. It's going to be next week.
Yikes.
Yeah, and I think I'm also hearing that the big banks are trying to filter who gets to put in an application, and they're kind of guarding it with, hey, if you are our customer and you actually have X, Y, and Z, like a business account, a business credit card, then you can apply.
How much do you think is that as legit versus them just trying to put a gate up so they don't get a bunch of randos?
I mean,
it's a gate in the sense that they can, that's how they screen who they want to handle. Otherwise they might just be overwhelmed. It's legal.
I mean, I guess the question is it a security thing? Like we already have a bunch of information, so it's easier, faster, whatever? Or is it like, we're only going to service our people? I'm curious.
It's probably a little bit of, yeah, a combo of both.
Yeah.
Well, so at this point, we can dive into the first question that was submitted. I mean, again, there's so much back and forth on this, and nothing's been very clear. So some people might be giving up hope. So at this point, which loan should I apply for? If I know, John, you had applied for the EIDL grant, and you haven't seen any forward movement on that at all when the promise was 3 A's. So does that change the plan for you right now?
Well, it changes how I fill out this application because the new app is asking for, it's not just average monthly payroll times 2.5. It's asking for plus EIDL, not net of advance, if applicable, equals loan request. So now my loan request needs to include my EIDL, which I don't know where I'm at with that.
So I guess that's not necessarily the question per se in terms of calculation, because I see that question. That might be the next question that we dive into. But at this point, is it even worth it to try to go back and apply for the EIDL if you haven't done yet that so far? Or do we just chase the PPP and just make that the primary target?
I've already applied, so I'm gonna still continue with the PPP and fill it out to the best of my ability today. But if you haven't applied for the EIDL, I still don't know why you wouldn't, unless Brian has some more input on that.
No, I agree with you. It's one of those things where you should apply for both. It's not going to hurt you to apply for either of the two. It just seems like the EIDL is a much faster application right now. Who knows? They might come back and say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. But for now, it's a pretty streamlined application that will literally take you only 5 minutes. PPP right now is a mess because you have to reach out to your bank or a bank and go through a lot of hoops at the moment. So there's no reason to apply for both and see what happens.
Is there a deadline for applying to the EIDL?
I think the overall deadline and the issue with this is again, I talked about yesterday, it's like the TP problem. It's first come, first serve. The latest guidelines that came out in the morning just says that when they run out, they run out, and that's it.
Oh my God.
Is the same thing for the PPP?
It encompasses, I think,
both.
The whole
both.
CARES Act, the entire budget.
So I'm wondering if, just to simplify the application process, if you just apply for the PPP first and then and put 0 in that field that John was talking about, and then apply for the EIDL after the fact and be like, oops, like how would they know?
Well, yeah, this whole thing, they were saying that you could roll the EIDL into the PPP, but
the timing
going
to work?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to hold you to anything. And that figure is kind of like a guesstimate. Like, it's because what you're applying for, nobody's received any funds, right? So there's no way for you to actually know. Nobody's actually been approved or anything. So I think that's just a rough estimate. I think that's there to give them some sense of direction of funds rather than what to actually approve you for or what to hold you liable for and all this other stuff. Assuming there's no forgiveness, but we all know that's not true. Mm-hmm. So again, apply for both. Yeah.
So let's dive into the next question, because I know there's been a lot of gray area between actually these next two questions of what's actually being calculated in the loan request amount. Has that been clarified? And I think that kind of rolls into the next question of, can I claim myself? And I'm assuming that's referring to, can I include what I pay myself as an owner, or I guess if my owner draw into the payroll calculations. I think that's what's being asked there. So have there been any developments on that? I know it's been pretty vague so far, and there's been a lot of different interpretations of this.
Yeah, they did on the application, they added an entire paragraph that kind of broke it down a little bit more, but still left it somewhat vague for someone like myself that's an LLC that just takes owner draws and pays taxes on my tax returns in the form of self-employment tax. They added a line at the end that kind of, I just don't know if I can include myself along with my payroll or if I have to apply separately as a sole proprietor for myself. So it's still a little bit vague. Again, it comes down to timing. Am I able to just do one loan app and include myself, or do I have to do my employees on one and then do myself as a self-proprietor next week?
Hey, Brian, I'm going to ask a question. I think a lot of people are thinking, if this seems like such a clusterfuck, and it is, why not just put everything down and just see what happens? Is that a bad move, Brian? And do we need to cut this part out?
Oh boy. I mean, the problem is you're only going to get one chance at this thing. And if you shoot your shot and you miss, it seems like that's going to be it. So it's one of those where you definitely want to understand the guidelines. You should be talking to an accountant who knows this stuff. I mean, I wish that we could have the definitive answer for everybody.
Do you see the double-edged sword of this? Is like, it's a one-shot deal. All the money's going to run out really quick, and you also have to go and talk to an accountant and get all these people in line to get all this information that they're not giving you.
Yeah,
and get your application in like first in line. Like, what the fuck?
That's exactly why we're on this call. And
visualize this. It's like you're taking a free throw shot, but the size of the hoop is 10 times bigger, but you're blindfolded.
I wouldn't even say it's 10 times bigger. I'd actually say that it's
the size of the hoop size. The size of the hoop is changing every second is what's happening.
Right.
And it's moving.
It's moving.
And you're blindfolded. So here's my question to John, because John, do you pay taxes as a sole proprietor, or do you pay
I pay self-employment tax on my 1040 at the end of the year when I file. So
but your business is classified as an LLC, correct?
Correct.
And the loan that you're applying for is for the business that is marked as an LLC.
Right.
So I can probably promise you, but obviously I'm not a CPA, I'm not a banker either, it's your owner's draw probably will not be part of the compensation. That's why I encourage most gym owners to pay themselves a salary as opposed to taking owner's draw, because of situations like this and tax related at the end of the year. It's not the best scenario for everyone. However, are you able to put in a second loan application if you don't have a second business?
Well, for independent contractors, the loan application opens up on April 10th. So that is another.
But that's not considered independent contract pay.
Right.
No,
it's considered like passive income, like the same, like rental property income or stock dividends. That's typically how it's classified. Not the same exact thing, but like that's how they would look at it.
But that's going to be true of every LLC, right? Because you can't withhold payroll taxes. That's the way I understood it on an LLC. Like the way I'm doing it is the way an LLC has to do it. So I pay myself, but I don't withhold taxes because I have to pay taxes at the end of the year because I'm self-employed. So I pay SE taxes. I've got a form, a calculation worksheet in my that number carries over based on net income, carries over to my 1040, and then I pay self-employment tax on that.
So I think this is an example of the guidelines not really helping.
Right.
Really clarify a lot of things. One of the things that was in the guideline that I think is an important fact, and I'll read it verbatim. Do independent contractors count as employees for purposes of PPP loan calculations? It is no. Independent contractors have the ability to apply for a PPP loan on their own, so they do not count for purposes of a borrower's PPP loan calculation. So this is going to affect a lot of people for this April 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been telling people, and I know this is kind of like almost like, I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's like we've been telling people to get your people on as employees rather than independent contractors for a long time. But I'm more concerned about the owners, to be honest. So we need to figure out, are the owners going to be looked at, if they're just taking draws as compensation, are they going to be looked at as contractors? They shouldn't be. Are they going to be looked at as self-employed? Yeah, but when they do that second application, what business are they going to put on the application? Because it's a business application, right? And they already have a business application in for the other ones, for the employees.
Right, which is why I think they're lumping together sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed into one group. But I think self-employed that have employees is a different group, because like Zach said, you've only got one EIN. You can only apply for one loan. So I think they need to break that out a little bit, because I'm reading right here from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I sent this to John Briggs, and he told me what I should, the number that I should use in my calculations. But it says, for sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals, the sum of payments of any compensation to or income of a sole proprietor or independent contractor is a wage, commission, income, net earnings from self-employment, which is what I pay self-employment tax on, or similar compensation that is an amount that is not more than $100,000 in 1 year, is prorated for the covered period. So it's telling me I can claim.
There you go. Yeah,
I can claim it. I just don't know if I can claim it. I'm going to put it on with my
on the same form.
On the same form.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes it sound like you can claim it on the same form, now that I've heard you say that.
Yeah.
But that's part of the confusion is.
But part of the confusion too is that number's based off net income. I haven't done my 2019 taxes. So do I use my 2018 taxes and use the number that I paid self-employment tax on?
I would.
That's what I'm going to do.
Especially if it was a good year.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach. That's what I'm going to do.
Hey, really quick to jump back to the last question. I just got in touch with Carlos, and he said that he's accepting applications today, but they're not going to start reviewing them until Monday.
I think it's bank to bank, branch to branch.
It might be bank to bank. But it sounds like the guidance isn't in place enough for any bank to really start putting them through today.
Right.
So is there any risk of submitting an application right now and there being a little bit more clarification or another switch on guidance over the weekend? Then will you have to go back and recalculate your numbers and resubmit?
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. If you wait, you're going to be in this. So yeah. I think of it this way. If I get my app in and it's wrong and my banker gets back to me and we fix it, do I keep my place in line, or do I wait? Yeah. Or if I make a change, does that bump me back in line, where I would be anyways if I waited to apply anyways?
Right. Exactly. So it's safe to assume to get it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, everyone
guys.
everyone knows that shit's moving. Sorry, go ahead.
No. So it sounds like then that's still the same course of action. Is just submit your application as soon as your bank or lenders will take them, and if there needs to be any adjustments, over the weekend or come Monday, we'll just have to pivot and make those adjustments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We ran a little long on today's call. We'll cut some of this out on post.
I thought we were only halfway through. Oh, okay.
Part 2 coming up. All right, guys. Any parting words going into the weekend? What we should be focusing on?
Good luck. Stay safe. Keep your head up. I mean,
keep your head up. Get your headspace set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say if you're an owner who's kind of like focused on banking on this loan, like try to, I guess, plan for the worst and assume you don't get a loan, right? And keep planning your businesses if you don't, and then hopefully all this stuff gets resolved and people will see funds.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On that positive note, let's wrap up today's call.
If this helped you at all, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be publishing these like you said every day. Give it a like, leave some comments if you have any questions or follow up for us.
Ask questions so we can answer them.
Oh yeah, hit up 1833 Jim Wins if you've got questions that you want to see on this on a future episode.
Definitely.
Goodstuff at pushpress.com.
Woo.